Yes, the Monsterverse, the modern kaiju film series that has brought the likes of Godzilla and Kong into modern-day CGI. With the Monsterverse, you either like it or hate it with every living cell in your being. Now, if you know anything about the Monsterverse, it's most likely that there are a lot of monsters and kaiju. But just how many are there? If you go on YouTube and look up that very question, you'll get a lot of answers, but I can show you every single one of them is incomplete. That's why I made this video today, where we will be going over and showing off every single monster in the Monsterverse. And before we start, a few things to know. We will be going in order of the Monsterverse timeline. For all you weirdos keeping notes, I know you're out there and I know you're watching, just have your pen and paper ready to write stuff down. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Godzilla Awakening. Godzilla Awakening is by far the first chronologically in the Monsterverse, taking place 250 million years ago. In this book, only two main monsters appear, along with many other smaller monsters. Of course, the first of the list, the king of the monsters himself, Godzilla. With a height of 355 feet at the time and a weight of 90,000 tons, he is a heavy and durable kaiju with a large assortment of abilities. Said abilities include, everybody buckle up, we have a wild ride to go through. Atomic Breath, by far his most known trait, and is used extensively throughout his films and novelizations. Symbiosis, example of this is shown when he works with Mothra. Heightened Senses, Godzilla already had the ability to know where everything was in the ocean at any given moment, but thanks to Mothra's sacrifice, he is now able to extend that ability to the entirety of the Earth. Telepathy, he uses this ability to control and communicate to other Titans. Nuclear Pulse, Godzilla has shown the ability to use a nuclear pulse in both his thermal and normal form. There are many other abilities, such as causing tsunamis, sharpened dorsal plates, density control, amphibianosis, thermal vision, radiation absorption, and more. Next up, the Titan that terrorized Godzilla for millions of years, Shinomura. Though he doesn't have the greatest assortment of abilities, Shinomura is one of Godzilla's most difficult enemies, needing the combined force of Godzilla and a nuke to kill him, making him have a strong chance against kaiju like King Ghidorah or even Destroya. His abilities include division and recombination. This is how he is able to escape death so many times. This ability might also be a reference to Hedorah or Destroya. Regeneration. When using his division move to escape a battle, one small piece of him can grow back his entire body. Growth. Shinomura at full potential could, quote-unquote, block the sky from taking in so much radiation. Flight. No big shock, he can make wings. The next few are just some random little monsters in a museum. They don't have any names or info, but I still must show them to complete this entire list. Gigantic Black Gorilla. Giant Carnivorous Plant. Giant Shrimp. But out of all of them, this one has a little bit of information, which is Shinomura likes to eat them. Giant creature with red eyes and elephant-like trunk. Giant reptile skeleton. Brain-like creature. Bipedal creature. Next up is Skull Island Birth of Kong, which most likely takes place around 700 years ago. Now, before any confusion arises, the Great War between the Kongs and the Skullcrawlers is much likely much older. However, Kong himself is only around 700 years old at the max, and at the youngest 300 years old. But don't let his young age disappoint you, because he has some strong abilities. Firstly, strength. Kong was able to punch and kick with great force, even enough to get out of Godzilla's grip multiple times. Agility. Kong is by far one of the most agile kaiju out there, being able to dodge Godzilla's beam by swinging through buildings in Hong Kong, and being able to quickly adapt to the Hollow Earth's terrain. Intelligence. Kong is also one of the smartest monsters in the Monsterverse, probably only behind Nakika. Kong was able to learn to use tools quickly, and use tools to his advantage. Battle Axe. Though it isn't a part of him, he uses it as a tool with great precision in battle. Kong's parents. Though they pulled a Mr. and Mrs. Wayne, they most likely had the same abilities as Kong. Now we've gotten to our first movie, made in 2017, but taking place in 1973, we have Kong, Skull Island, the first and only Monsterverse movie to be nominated for Best Achievement in Visual Effects. This film, in my opinion, is the best Kong movie ever made in his almost 90 years of being on the big screen. Without further ado, let's get into the kaiju. Of course we have Kong, but once we go over a kaiju, we're not going to go over them again, or else this video will be very, very long. The real first one, of course, the beast that almost drove the Kongs to extinction, the crazy hypervores, the Skullcrawlers. The Skullcrawlers are an odd species of Titan that are constantly hunted. Their slim bodies and odd builds make them an eye-catching kaiju and an instant fan favorite. But what does a Skullcrawler have in its arsenal? Let's see. Prehensile tongue. Skullcrawlers can use their tongues almost like an extra limb, being able to pick up and throw things, or just pick up things to eat. Prehensile tail. Just like its tongue, the tail can be used for many other things. Besides just attacking, it can also be used to wrap around and stand on things. The next kaiju we have is Mother Longlegs. Mother Longlegs is camouflage. If you saw in the movie, you most likely jumped just like I did when they first came on screen. They're easily able to blend into bamboo. Even if you look right at them, you probably won't even notice they're there. Razor sharp legs. Their legs are very sharp at the end, being able to stab through flesh and bone. Tendrils. They use these tendrils to suck the nutrients out of any animal's body. Reproduction. They are able to reproduce, given the name Mother Longlegs. Now buckle up everybody, we're going to go through the rest very fast. The spore mantis has camouflage and sap. The skyr buffalo has amphibianosis and camouflage. The Meyer squid has tentacles, ink, and whirlpool. The leafwing has flight, thermal vision, spike anesthetics, and camouflage. And the final last two are a giant triceratops and giant ants. Next up, the film that started the whole series back in 2014, and my personal favorite Godzilla movie of all time, Godzilla, also known as Godzilla 2014. Believe it or not, there are a total of 5 monsters in this film. First up, the disgusting lovers, the male and female Muto. Starting with the female. Coming in at a height of 300 feet and a weight of 60,000 tons, she has a wide range of abilities, which include EMPs. Both Mutos can release an electromagnetic pulse, which was used to weaken Godzilla's beam throughout the film. Strength. Both Mutos were able to push around and drag Godzilla in San Francisco. Reproduction. The female Muto lays eggs in the film and hopes for them to hatch to give way to an army of Mutos. Next up, of course, the male Muto, coming in at a height of 200 feet and a weight of 15,000 tons. He's a very mobile and intimidating kaiju. The male Muto has all the same abilities as the female Muto, except of course laying eggs. His first main ability is flight. The male Muto is shown to be a fast and skilled flyer. At a top speed, though, it's unknown. Swimming. The male Muto has also been shown to be a great swimmer, being able to go all the way down to grab a Russian submarine and take it up to the surface. Next up, the younger cousin of Godzilla, Dagon. Sadly, there isn't much info on Dagon, but we can make a few educated guesses on his abilities. First up, of course, being atomic breath. We at least know, according to Wikizilla, that Dagon has an atomic breath just like Godzilla. Sharp dorsal plates. Just like Godzilla, Dagon most likely sharpened his dorsal plates. And finally, strong tail. Dagon most likely also, just like Godzilla, had a strong tail whip. Finally, the last two are once again Mutos. Firstly, the Muto eggs. There's no abilities and no info in them at all, but the more overlooked one, the Muto larva, because there must be a Muto larva form that crawled out of Dagon at the beginning of 2014. Next up is going to get a little confusing, but once again we have Skull Island Birth of Kong. We already addressed the flashback portion of the book, but we haven't gone over the later main part of the story, which is right in between Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla Aftershock. Buckle up, we have a lot to go over. First up, the Psychovultures. The Psychovultures are a very dangerous and quick swarm of bat-like creatures. Their abilities include flight, which is the way they terrorize their prey, thermal vision, which helps them find warm-blooded animals at night when they're hunting, and electrical blast. These blasts are strong enough to knock small airplanes out of the sky. Next up is one of my favorite creatures in the Monsterverse, the Siren Draw. Their abilities include swimming, no big shock, they live in the water, and camouflage. They are able to hide and make themselves look like small islands, tricking their prey into walking upon it just for them to get eaten. Next up, the Death Jackal. Their abilities include claws and fangs. These are used to shred through their prey. Manes. Their manes are made out of sharp spikes. And packs. The Death Jackals travel in packs when they're hunting. Next up, another one of my favorites, the Magma Turtle. Their abilities include armored hide. The Magma Turtles have a shell made of rock and stone. Heat resistance. They live in molten magma. And molten blood. Their blood makes it unusual and unlikely for predators to attack them, given how hot it is. Another swamp kaiju is next, the Swamp Locust. Their abilities include only one, which is camouflage. Once again, they use their camouflage for prey to walk onto them with no suspicion. The next are just some random monsters, so once again, let's speed run. Giant ants, giant snakes, giant wasps, carnivorous plants, and squid-like creatures. Next is Godzilla Aftershock. Now, realistically, the next should be the upcoming Godzilla Apple TV series, but we have no info on anybody in it yet. And I should also mention that we won't be going over the Kong anime, since, once again, no info. Godzilla Aftershock takes place soon after the events of Godzilla 2014, and only has one new kaiju appearance. That kaiju being the Muto Prime. The Muto Prime is the highest tier of Muto species, and there's a good reason for it. Besides, of course, the Muto Prime being in charge of all the other Mutos, she has a wide range of abilities. Let's take a look. The Muto Prime's abilities include Seismic Concussive Blast. This ability pretty much is an extremely strong punch, being strong enough to break tectonic plates, and this was used against Godzilla to knock him over. Sonic Roar. This roar has evolved to be harmful to the Godzilla species, hitting at the exact frequency to shatter the Godzilla's dorsal plates. Bioterrestrial nature. This allows the Muto Prime to create earthquakes and move tectonic plates at her will. Reproduction. Using her ovipositors, the Muto Prime can more or less impregnate another kaiju. Lava-like blood. Nothing much, just lava-like blood. And finally, amphibianosis. Next up, we have Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the movie that brought fan favorites to the modern era. This includes Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. One downside, though, there are a combined 22 kaiju in this film. So sadly, we won't be able to go in depth on all of them, but only a few will get an actual analysis. Don't worry though, there'll still be a lot of info. Let's get into it. But before we get into it, you might be thinking, man, I kinda want some merchandise, or maybe a figure. Well, don't fret, because today's sponsor, YouToozs, you can do just that. YouToozs not only has a wide range of Godzilla figures, such as Kong, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla himself, but they have all sorts of TV series and movies, like Breaking Bad and South Park. Make sure to go to the link below and pick up your very own YouToozs, because I can promise you, they are very high quality, very well sculpted and painted, and they are worth every penny. Thank you, YouToozs, for sponsoring this video. Back to the analysis. First up, Godzilla's battle partner, Titanus Mothra, or Mothra. Despite being small, Mothra has an impressive range of abilities. Let's take a look. Flight. No surprise here, her name literally has moth in it. Bioluminescence. Mothra uses this signal to intimidate other kaiju. God Rays. These are used as a blinding light. Silk Attack. This is the first time Mothra has been able to use his attack in her Imago stage, and is strong enough to hold back King Ghidorah. Claws and Stingers. These are used in her fight against Rodan. Symbiosis. This is how she and Godzilla communicate. Psychic Connection. Mothra uses this to talk to the twin sisters of the Chen family. Immortality. Mothra lays an egg every time before she goes out to battle, so if and when she dies, she is reborn out of said egg. Next up, the fire demon himself, Titanus Rodan. Titanus Rodan has supersonic flight. Rodan can fly very fast at a top speed of about Mach 1.2. Shockwaves. When Rodan flies, he can cause shockwaves that are strong enough to level an entire city. A magma system. From living in a volcano for so long, parts of him fused with said volcano. He was there for so long, he literally has magma flowing through his body. Eruption. Rodan can make volcanoes erupt just by flying over them. And finally, fireballs. For a brief second, you can see Rodan shoot fireballs seemingly out of his wings. The final monster we'll be going in depth is the Space Dragon himself, King Ghidorah, also known as Monster Zero. Mr. Space Dragon here has a lot of abilities. Let's take a look. Gravity beams. Despite the name, they are never used to pick up any kaiju in battle, but do inflict a lot of damage. Wing lightning. When King Ghidorah took in the energy from power plant, he had pretty much his very own pulse. In fact, the lightning was so strong, it even damaged him slightly. Flight. No shock. Huge wings. Alpha call. This is what Ghidorah used to control and communicate to the other kaiju around the world. Intelligence. He's a smart boy. Telepathy. Ghidorah's heads are so far apart that they're only able to communicate via telepathy. Regeneration. As seen in the film, Ghidorah grew back his head in less than 10 seconds. Now we have the remaining kaiju. Once again, everybody, buckle up. We're going light speed on this one. I would like to apologize in advance. I butcher almost every single one of these. Yeah. Mothra Larva, Outpost 61. Mothra Egg, not specified. Scylla, Outpost 55. Behemoth. I couldn't find any info on what Outpost is at, so, 69. Methuselah, Outpost 67. Muto Queen, not specified. Thermonuclear Godzilla. It's kind of a new kaiju, so we'll just count it. Leviathan, Outpost 49. Baphomet, Outpost 68. Sekhmet, Outpost 65. Mokele Membe, Outpost 75. Yamata no Orochi, Outpost 91. Typhon, Outpost 92. Binya, Outpost 99. Majigra, not specified, he's kind of just dead. Adidon, Outpost 77. I'm not even going to pronounce that, it's on screen. Outpost 57. Giant Spider, no info. Finally, an Anguirus-like skeleton outside of Godzilla's temple. Rip in peace, Anguirus. Next up is Godzilla Dominion. Now, most of the next kaiju did appear in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I wanted to be able to go in depth rather than just have a picture of them appear on a screen like they did in King of the Monsters. Without further ado, let's get into my favorite novel of the Monsterverse, Godzilla Dominion. First up is Amulek, the swamp kaiju that humbled Behemoth. His abilities include telekinesis. Amulek uses his ability to build his body. Amphibianosis. He's able to live on land and in water. Psychic blast. He uses this to send a blast to his opponent's brain. Adaptability. Amulek builds his body on the area around him. Next is the monster that almost took the role of King of the Monsters from Godzilla, the giant serpent, Tiamat. Her abilities include constriction. Tiamat can constrict her body around her enemies, reminiscent of a snake, being able to crush her prey. Scales. These scales are sharp enough to cut through Godzilla's skin. Acid breath. Tiamat uses a breath to blind Godzilla. Hydrokinesis. Tiamat can manipulate the water around her. Next up is for sure the smartest kaiju in the Monsterverse, Nakika. Her abilities include regeneration. Nakika can regenerate any part of his body. Transforming skin. Like an octopus, Nakika can change her skin color on a command. Intelligence. Nakika not only has a large brain, but he has a brain in each tentacle, meaning he has a total of 9 brains. Sequential hermaphrodism. Yeah. If you're wondering why I keep changing Nakika's pronouns, it's because Nakika can change her or his gender on command, even go as far as being both at one given moment. Giant lemurs. That's it. There's no info on them besides just being giant lemurs. Next are the murderfish. Once again, nothing special. But they do serve the murderfish genitor. The murderfish genitor, I personally can't find any info on the thing, but I can make a few guesses on its abilities. Gender. Most likely, the murderfish genitor is a female. Given that in the natural kingdom, the most highest common rank is female for reproductive reasons, and given that so many normal murderfish, she most likely gave birth to all of them. Bite. This thing most likely would have been able to bite right through Godzilla. Given its design is clearly based on the extinct Dunkleosteus, and they have an incredible bite force of around 80,000 pounds per square inch, she would have been able to bite right through things like rock. Digging. Given that she was able to bite through rock, it's not far-fetched to say that she could probably dig. This is also backed up by the fact that her first panel art shows her bursting through an underwater cave wall. Ancient Kongs. Once again, we have no info on them, but we can only assume they have the same abilities as modern Kong. And finally, a lot of dead kaiju. None of them are specified, but we can make a guess that one of them is Yamata no Orochi. Given how many heads it has, resembles the legend of Orochi, a Japanese legend of an 8-headed dragon. Next up on our list is Kingdom Kong, taking place right before Godzilla vs. Kong. This comic only has a few new kaiju, one of them being my favorite in the Monsterverse. First up, the devil bat that gave Kong a run for his title of king. We have Camazotz. Flight. Once again, no shock, but Camazotz can fly at a speed of Mach 1.6. Sonic Screech. This screech can completely destroy buildings and disorient other titans in combat. Razor Wings. Camazotz's bones are jutting out of his wings, being able to cut through other titans. Echolocation. Just like a bat, Camazotz is blind, but he uses this method to see instead. Hellswarm. More on them next. The Hellswarm. These are large bat-like creatures that follow Camazotz. Their abilities include flight. What a shock. Claws. The Hellswarm have very strong claws and teeth. Next, one of my favorites in the entire Monsterverse, the Spirit Tiger. Sadly though, the tiger did die faster than my brain cells when watching a Plo Koot video. There's only one known ability of the tiger, which is hallucinogenic aura. This can cause humans near the Spirit Tiger to become dizzy or euphoric. Now, before you laugh at this next bit, yes, this is canon. Next in the timeline is Kong and Me, a kid's book. The strongest monster ever created, making the likes of Cthulhu shiver in fear. The Fern Bird. There are no known abilities of the Fern Bird. The only one I can make up in my mind is camouflage, given that it hides in fern plants. Now we're almost fully caught up. Next is Godzilla vs. Kong. There's a good lineup of kaiju in this film. Let's unpack. First, the Mega Skullcrawler, also known as number 10. Though we've already gone over Skullcrawlers, and there are no new abilities with this one, it's legit just a big Skullcrawler. Now for the first real one, the Warbats. These are large flying serpents. Also, did you know these are the second longest kaiju in the Monsterverse? Yeah, these guys come in at a whopping length of 950 feet long. Their abilities include flight. This is getting old saying flight over and over again. Venom. These guys can inject a total of 9,800 gallons of venom. Next are the Hellhawks. These ugly bastards are inside of Kong's temple. Their abilities include flight. Wow, it can fly, what a shock. Never would have guessed that with a name like Hellhawk. Echolocation. Like Camazotz, these guys are blind. Next are the little rock critters. These guys were only on screen for a little bit, but we do in fact have some abilities for them. Camouflage. These guys were seen hiding in the ground. Digging. Once again, given that they're able to hide in the ground, means they're most likely able to dig out an area for themselves to hide. Next is a fan favorite, Titanus Phaetodon, aka Doug. Sadly, Doug literally has no abilities known at this moment. If you were to ask me, I would only assume it has camouflage, given his skin kinda matches the terrain. The next are just some random ones. Skeletons of large creatures, skullcrawler eggs, hollow earth birds. Of course, the one that everybody remembers from this film has been waiting for, Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla has a large range of abilities. One last time, let's take a look. A-74 proton screen, aka Mechagodzilla's atomic breath. Missile launcher. Embedded in his back and shoulders, Mechagodzilla has 16-cell missile launchers. Jet boosters. He uses these for agility in battle. Neural connection. To simplify, this is how the Space Dragon skull possessed the Mecha Lizard via Wi-Fi. Swimming. In the PUBG mobile event, Mechagodzilla is seen swimming to Godzilla. Drones. Once again in the PUBG mobile event, Mechagodzilla launches drones out of his body. Tail drill. This tail has 4 sharp blades, almost cutting into Kong. Learning algorithms. Pretty much, he can learn quickly, like ChatGPT. And there we are, fully caught up. I hope you... Oh, what's this? Hold up. For the love of Godzilla! Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire is an upcoming film that takes place next in the timeline. In this trailer, we get a good look at a new Kong. He's older and appears to have atomic powers. Other than him, there are a lot of bones. This guy can bite, that guy's dead, boom, other bones. And there we go. Every monster in the Monsterverse. Thank you guys for watching all the way through. I really hope you enjoyed. This video took me weeks to make, and I have to mention all my sources and thank them. Wikizilla, Gojipedia, Goji Center, and G-Fan Magazine. Also, please, I know one of you is watching as a friend of 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 Adam Wingard. I am begging you, invite me to the Godzilla x Kong premiere. Please, I beg. God. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. As I edit this, Legendary has released info on a new board game about Kong. Thing is, this game takes place after Kong Skull Island, so it is in the lore. Let's back up a little bit. Back to the Godzilla, Kong, whatever part of the video it was at that point. The new monsters include Giant Dodo. He's the biggest bird. He can't fly either because dodos can't fly. Jovian Flytrap, which is most likely the carnivorous plant from the Birth of Kong part of the video. Tree of Whoa. Yes, Biolante. Now here's the actual end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe. This took so long to make. Godzilla Guy out. Keep collecting, everybody.